let's take the final topic that we are going to take today, World Social Protection Report 2022. Social protection means the social security. Social security means in the form of EPFO, Employee Provident Fund, Provident Funds, okay, social security like medical insurance, social security like job security, okay, social security like access to health facilities. So these are the kind of social protections that we are talking about. So ILO has International Labour Organization has released its report that says that less than a quarter of Indians, less than 1/4 of the Indians have social protection net. Social protection net means they have some kind of insurance to fall back in case of some health or some such kind of problems. Okay, so it says that India's condition is very drastic, as less than 1/4 of total the Indians are having the social protection net. The net is the report is published by ILO. ILO is a tripartite organization. Tripartite organization means it consists of workers, employers and governments. It is the only tripartite organization. Okay, it gives a global overview of recent developments, okay, in the social protection systems. Okay, it is based on new data, and it identifies protection gaps and set out policy recommendations to counter that in the view of the sustainable development goals. Okay, let's look at some of data that has been provided. So this is for the world. This is for the world. We can see that children in the whole world, children, only 26.4% of the children have some kind of access to social security. Okay, and in the whole world, if we take whole world as a sample, that only 46.9 or 47% people have access to any kind of social security. Okay, of which most of the social security access is with the older people. Okay, most of the social security is with the older people, whereas for mothers, persons with severe disabilities and workers in case of injury, the figures are very average, like 1/3, around 33-34%. The access to social security by workers, who are the lowest rate, is very low. If we look about Asia and the Pacific, basically the way in which India comes, and Europe and Central Asia, so you can clearly see in Europe and Central Asia, the charts are very high. Okay, that means in Europe and Central Asia, the access to social security is highest. Whereas if we talk about the Asia and the Pacific region means Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, Singapore, like these countries, Asia and the Pacific countries, so we can clearly see that the access by children to social welfare is way below the world average, that is 26.4%, and in the Asia Pacific it is only around 18%. Right? Whereas for the older persons as well, we can see that in most of the conditions, the Asia and the Pacific region is lagging behind the world average and way behind the Europe and Central Asian values. Right? So that shows that the condition in the Asia and Pacific is not very good in terms of provisions of social security measures. So what are the global observations that report has made is the global spending on social security is very small, around 12.9%, that is 13%. Okay, so disparity among countries, Mongolia, New Zealand, Singapore and Australia have 100% social security net, whereas Myanmar, Cambodia, the number stands below 10%. Okay, below 10%. Majority is wholly unprotected, that is only 46.9% of the people in the whole world has access to some kind of social security benefits. Okay, majority are unprotected, that is 53.1% people do not have any kind of social security. The population having access to at least one social protection, that means at least a provident fund, at least a pension fund, at least a medical insurance, at least accidental insurance, these any kind of access to at least one kind of social protection is 33.2% in Southeastern Asia and 22.8% in Southern Asia. We are in Southern Asia, right? So the latter's most populous country, Bangladesh and Pakistan, cover only 28.4% and 9.2%. Okay, only 28.4% for Bangladesh, and for Pakistan it is only 9.2%, way below the like it is below even the 10% range. Okay, that is majority of the world, majority of the people in the world do not have an access to at least one, even one social security scheme, right? In case of illness and injury, if we talk about like accidental insurance or medical insurance, so 3 out of 4 workers in Asia Pacific region, that is like 75% of people do not have an access to any kind of social protection scheme if they are suffering with illness or injury during work. Okay, Afghanistan, India, Nepal and Pakistan cover fewer than 5% of their workers. These countries have less than even 5% of their workers covered under any kind of social protection scheme related to injury or illness. The share of people with severe disabilities who receive a disability remains below 33.5%. Only 1/3 of the people who are facing severe disability have any kind of social security. Okay. For children, the vast majority of the children, see, only 26.4% of the children throughout the world have any kind of social security protection, right? Effective coverage is particularly low in some regions, to 18% in Asia and Pacific, for 15.4% in Arab states and 12.6% in Africa. In African states, it's even worse. If we talk about India specifically, though only 24.4% of Indians, even fewer than Bangladesh, which has 28.4%, have access to some kind of social protection benefits. Okay. India spends 8.6% on this, approximately 4% less than global average. Okay, the global average is 12.6%. So the population having access to at least one social protection scheme is 24.4% in India. Okay, whereas with contributory schemes like EPF, CPF or GPF, contributory schemes means such a scheme where the employer, the government and the employee himself, they are making some specific contribution to the fund. Okay, so the contributory scheme limited to working in formal sector, right? Since the contributory schemes are limited to formal worker, but now government has brought schemes which are not limited to formal workers as well. You need to go through them, right? Are lower than 5% of GDP. That means the average spending on such contributory schemes which are covering the formal sector workers is lower than even 5% of the total GDP. Okay, GDP per capita. Okay. Now, contributory scheme, a combination of schemes, India achieved social protection through combination of contributory and contributory schemes and non-contributory schemes like pension. Non-contributory schemes are insurances, contributory schemes are pension funds, right? And efforts for progressive extension of coverage by combining different tiers of specific protection, okay, like Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. This provided a lot of social security to the people in the informal or rural areas. Okay, so I believe the last thing that we are taking today is about ILO, because this report is being presented by ILO itself. So ILO is a tripartite organization which was formed in 1919 under the Versailles Treaty after the World War I. Okay, the Treaty of Versailles was signed and this came into being. So it is a tripartite organization which has members from employers, workers and the governments. Okay, so India is founding member of ILO. Okay, it became the first affiliated specialized agency of United Nations in 1946. There are 6 specialized agencies of United Nations. What means ILO, like FAO, WHO. Okay, the flagship report, you need to remember this: Global Wage Report, World Employment and Social Outlook Report, and World Employment and Social Outlook, Social Protection Report, and World Work Report. These are the important reports that you need to remember for this. That brings us to the end of the lecture, and I believe you understood this, you enjoyed this lecture. If you have any doubts or any confusions regarding any of these topics, or if you are finding it difficult to understand them, kindly connect me within the comment sections. I have already said that I regularly read them and I'll be responding you back. That brings us to the end of it. I hope you have a great weekend ahead. Thank you.